have a dock, and I don't allow people to go on the first two sites because they're closest to shore and they're usually not good sites. But the sites are still there, and I'm not quite, I was thinking about this, and I'm not sure how to keep people off of those.
As far as, are you asking about mooring?
So maybe I should ask you what a mooring spot is. I mean, if I have a free-flowing spot where someone from the public comes and ties on to our dock, I mean, is it considered a mooring facility then?
Well, a mooring site would be when you permanently set aside areas to tie up your boat. So it's the ones that you're offering for rent that, you know, your resort people will lease or rent with you for the season. You can't offer more than 44 of those.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
You may.
So if
Deb, that would be me.
Deb stays overnight as just an overnight guest. Deb loves camping.
I do.
Because she
So
does
Deb
love
loves camping, she
I
brings her
sped
boat,
there.
and there is those two front spots open that are not, that people have not paid the $250 for. It's just a free-flowing spot. Is Deb allowed to use one of those open spots? Because we have 6 docks, or we have 7?
We have 6.
We have 6, but we're technically allowed 7.
Yes.
I mean, putting an extra dock in obviously makes no sense whatsoever because we can't use it. So could Deb come and use that spot for the day if we're not charging her for that?
I would say at any one time you cannot have more than 44 boats moored on your docks.
Okay, so if it was a free-flowing thing, Deb decides to come in and have lunch with her family, she ties up to that dock, enjoys lunch with her family, there's probably never gonna be 40 people there at one time, ever. A lot of people don't put theirs in, some people take it out every time they come, they don't come every weekend, so some people don't put their boat in the whole summer, quite honestly, they pay for a spot, and if they put it in one weekend, it's a surprise. So basically, if we go down and count 40 at a time, the other ones can be free-flowing.
You can't have more than 44 boats moored there. And so if I were to show up and you had 45 boats there, moored there, you would be in violation. You would need to get one of them out of there. So I don't care how you do it, as far as if you want a few just for transient people and the rest of them are for people that lease them. But if you're gonna rent all 44 sites out and they're gonna be spoken for, then you need to make sure that you don't have more than 44 boats moored there at any one time. That's what I'm gonna be looking for. However you wanna manage that is completely up to you.
There is no way around that.
Unless you get a variance. And then you can get a variance to exceed the number of mooring sites, but then you're gonna be in front of the Board of Adjustment to do that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Jolinski.
Amy, in all respect to Jeff's question, and I think it was, who enforces it? I think you did mention that.
Well, I think I got it.
They would, yeah, they
Yeah.
would be,
The landowners.
the landowner is the
Yes.
enforcer. But now there's 50 boats, it's the 4th of July. Let's use an example, I don't care when it is, whatever the date is. Deb has a whole bunch of friends that came over.
Right after she got a speeding ticket.
Right after she got a speeding ticket. There's 50 boats tied up to, somehow or another, tied up to docks at your place. And we'll guarantee you that someone on that lake is going to take a photograph of it. We'll flat out tell you that's gonna happen.
Yes.
And it's gonna come to the Facilities Department. What happens?
We're gonna be visiting with the property owner,
You know,
obviously
you're
about
gonna do
that.
that
we're
on
gonna-
July 10th.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be 30 boats tied up.
Because we'll get a call a month later
Yeah.
after it happened.
If I'm just saying, let's be open about it.
No, we're gonna be letting them know that we got the complaint. If it's a continuous issue, then we're certainly gonna be doing some elevated enforcement,
Okay.
depending on if you grant this conditional use permit and if you put any conditions regarding the mooring sites, then that would also constitute a violation of the conditional use permit, which is we hold that over and then we can compel a little bit more compliance if it's written into that.
Thank you very much.
Other questions of the board?
I guess I have
Mike?
one, sure. So if you rented out 44 spots and 30 of them are normally always empty, somebody else could park in that spot. It's still not 40, you know, just because it's rented out, as long as there's not over 44 boats tied up at one time.
Correct. So
then you
if
just have to know
you,
who's coming and who's not coming, which.
probably not a
you know,
wise idea to advertise that you have 62 mooring sites, however, because
Right.
that's not what you have.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
right,
And
right.
so that would be a management issue on your
Right.
end to make
Mhm.
sure that you're not exceeding at any one time more than 44 votes.
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Lynch.
Different subject. 2 weeks has already gone by. We tabled this for 60 days. MPCA permitting, can you expand on, expound on that a little bit, please, for me?
Absolutely. So this is coming from Minnesota Rule 7080, so the county doesn't administer this portion of the rule, this is under MPCA jurisdiction. And how that is written is if you have several systems within half-mile proximity of each other under the same ownership that collectively treats 10,000 gallons or more per day, you need Minnesota Pollution Control Agency permitting. It's considered a mid-sized sewage treatment system, and that rises to Minnesota Pollution Control Agency permitting. So that, if you take the design flow for a campground, when a designer goes in and designs a septic system, they figure 100 gallons per day per site. So we have 130 sites right now at 100 gallons per day. So the design capacity of the systems that the Hardys have is 13,000 gallons. So that's over 10,000 gallons. So that's what's tripping that requirement. And then the caveat to that is this is coming up statewide. This is an issue that's coming up, and so there is some legislation that is moving through right now that is expected to be voted on here in the next few weeks that would allow campgrounds to utilize flow meters to actually measure what the discharge actually is to these systems rather than just using the design flow. So if utilization doesn't rise to 10,000 gallons a day, that would provide relief for the state permitting that would need to occur. Now, that is not law, that is moving through. So the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, of course, right now, only has what they have on the books now. And so right now, they would be subject to permitting. If that new portion gets adopted into law, then that would give them a little bit of leeway as far as to show utilization and then perhaps not need licensing.
And Mr. Chair, and if it doesn't go through,
Then they would need to be permitted.
and the cost would be,
I've been told that the initial permit cost is about $9,000. Okay, and then there is an annual permit fee after that. Then also, it does undergo some engineering review, and sometimes they do direct the installation of monitoring wells, and so there would be some monitoring well installation and then also monitoring requirements along with that. And that is that's why this legislation is moving through, because there is no grandfathering in of any of these resorts. It is a matter when they were established. If they've got systems that treat up to 10,000 gallons a day, they're subject to permitting.
So 100 units or more basically.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I did speak with the Metro Regional Supervisor yesterday in regards to MPCA permitting. It's $9,300 a year and $1,240 after that. And I basically made an attempt to get licensed to comply with the MPCA, and I was told wait for mid-May. I think May 15th is when the session is over, and it's a part of the omnibus bill that is in the House and the Senate, and it is expected to pass. Bill Engelbritson is the one that's authored this bill, and so really, in a sense, is what it does is gives us an opportunity to prove that, and the way we felt all along is that we've been oversizing our systems for a lot of years, and that 5,000 gallons on a busy weekend would be a considerable amount for us to use. And so then the flow meter we currently have on our well would monitor the water that's coming out, and obviously we're gonna cut down on watering the grass and things of that nature. But then, at that point, when it's under 10,000 gallons, it then falls back to the county, and we have to abide by the county ordinances.
And Mr. Chair, I'll add that compliance inspections have been done on each of these systems. They are compliant. All of the systems that treat are compliant right now. And so I guess, as far as for a compliance thing there, if they've been instructed by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency or WADOC, there's been an attempt to satisfy that requirement, and they're kind of placing all of these on hold until that legislation moves through.
Commissioner Zelinski?
Mr. Chair, I just have a question on per day. I don't mean to
Yeah.
go back to kindergarten or first grade. I understand per day. Let's go per year, 365 days. And there's 2 days, let's just assume, or 3 days, or 3 big weekends, your flow. Your flow meter says you're over each one of those 3 big weekend days. Is that what we're talking about? Or we can take 1 day out of 365 and say that they're over on that 1 day? I hope I'm understanding this right. And then they're in violation? Or does this take into consideration that the 6 months that they're running, that every one of those days, they're under the flow limit, but 3 weekends, or 3 days, whatever, doesn't make any difference, they went over. Is that what we're talking about?
Septic designs are always going to be designed for your peak flows. Worst case scenario, that's what they're going to be, because you don't want to ever max out your system
Yep.
and give it more than it can handle. What my understanding is, as far as for the flow meters, right now the only thing the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency goes by is the required sizing by the designer. So that's all they're using. By putting on the flow meters, they're going to be looking at utilization, and they want those during your peak times. And they want to look to see if you ever reach 10,000 gallons a day.
Okay.
If you do, if you have times where you hit 10,000 gallons a day, you're subject to their permitting.
Okay, so 3 times a year, but let's just assume that they go over 10,000 gallons. Then it's to get a permit.
Then you would need the permitting through the Minnesota Pollution Control.
They're gonna have to open up their septic, make their septic holding tanks bigger, or?
No.
It's just a permit.
Correct. It's just another layer of permitting that they're required to have.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
reason,
More
one of the,
money.
Okay.
one of the reasonings for that is because when you have many septic systems on a relatively small area, they need to pay attention to nitrate loading
Yep.
and the way that moves. So if you're utilizing kind of the same area for treatment and that's all hitting the same aquifer, you can get some nitrate loading. And that is why they ramp up the permitting when you have systems that treat that much effluent. And then that's usually what will drive the need for monitoring wells.
But so
also.
we're, Mr. Chair, so we're on the same page. They have a septic system right now. It works right now.
Mhm.
3 times in 1 year, their flow meter says they have discharged in excess of 10,000 gallons per day. What they need to do is, yep, it did, went to 12,000. Life goes on. MPCA, we need to have a permit. They apply for a permit, pay for a permit, and get a permit, it's done. They're not, again, I just need to get myself clear on this, they're not building another holding tank, they're not building another drain field. They simply are getting a piece of paper from the MPCA. I just need to know if that's what I'm understanding.
Mr. Chair, that is my understanding of how their permitting process works.
Deb? Deb?
Mr. Chair, that's why the legislation is being proposed. Sometimes rules with state agencies, even, sometimes you need to change the laws to be able to have them make sense, or you need to have rules to make the laws make sense, because not every situation is necessarily thought through, and that's exactly the point. There's all of these, in particular seasonal sites they're designed to have a capacity, but they don't actually use that. Very seldom. I mean, every single campground, like we talked about, would need to flush the toilet at exactly the same time and run the sink, and then have a, in order for some of these systems that would actually get to that level. So that's why there's legislation, and that's why they're lobbying efforts to say,
And I'm
oh, we
okay
didn't
with it.
really think of that.
Yep, and I'm okay with it, I just need to grasp around this.
That'll be decided in a month.
Well, May, yeah, I
Maybe,
don't know for sure.
maybe, yeah.
And the other question that comes in is, so if you're looking at what's going on now, okay, and asking for a 30-site expansion then, could put you over the limit or could not, it depended, and that's why the flow meters are necessary. You see what I'm saying? So that's why they do that, and I heard some people say, well, it's about money. Well, boy, we look at the report we just got out by Piercefish Lake, I mean, 58% nitrate, I mean, it's unbelievable out there. So, I mean, those are real concerns, and just remember, like I said earlier, I mean, this lake, this aquifer provides Long Prairie River crowing, I mean, that's a big deal. So just be aware of that. These are some real concerns, and that's why they do that, so. Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I actually have our water results for the last 5 years that would show any nitrate elevation or anything like that, so I can pass these around, you can take a look at them. And I just also wanted to reiterate, the sites that we are adding, the 30 sites are seasonal sites. So, I mean, when you look in, the way that we operate there, we have folks that come in on the weekends and they're there for the weekends. And you look at a different type of facility that would have cabins, they have people that are new every week and they're there all week and they change out on the weekend. So you're looking at the sheer number of people. I assure you, compared to a facility that has a number of cabins, we are turning far fewer people through. And in 2001, when we came to the resort, there was 48 overnight camping sites. So in respect to the folks that live on the lake and their concerns, we've taken that number from 48 to 15. So the number of trailers that are coming up and down that road has significantly reduced, and the sites that we're proposing to add are seasonals, and so therefore there's not going to be campers that would be coming up and down the road.
And if I may add, we're open for 5 months. We're open from May 1st to September 30th. I would say the month of May, people don't really start coming, especially overnight camping, until school is out, so mid-June. Even our seasonals, I would say mid-June. Then there's, of course, weddings and graduations and anniversary parties. There's a lot of things going on. Start August, children start sports again. Our kids are in football. Football starts mid-August. So August and September. I would say of the whole summer, the times we are busy and the times that we are using water and doing all this stuff, really are 2 weeks of June, all of July, all of August, and then a couple of weeks into, it's about 2.5 months. I mean, realistically, plus all the people that are gone for different holidays, not holidays, but weddings and graduations and all that. I would say that our campground is full half the time. I mean, as far as seasonals. And I would think even the neighbors would say that the road, I remember staying there as a child. You had to park miles down the road in order to check in. I mean, we certainly don't have that anymore. People come in.
I have a question for Amy, if I may. Is that okay, Bart? Okay. Question for you. So if the campsites are increased by 30, does that then increase their allowable mooring sites on the lake?
No.
Okay, just wanted to.
Because that is based on the calculation of the square footage of land they have in the first tier and how many sites they'd be allowed in the first tier. We do have provisions for you to increase density, but so for example, if you're not using all of your density in tier 1, and I'm talking just about campsites now, you can roll that back to a tier further back from the lake, but you can never roll it forward. We have no language in the ordinance that would bring you forward closer to the shoreline.
So they can't put sites down in tier 1, is what you're saying?
They could put sites down in tier 1 because they have available density there.
Would that then
But
take
the
away
mooring
the amount of...
sites, no, the mooring sites is based on how many allowable units you can have in the first tier, period.
Oh, I see, understood, whether they're there or not.
Correct.
Okay, understand.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Sandy, can I go back to the septics one more time? I'll probably do this again yet because whatever. The 30 additional sites that Jeff and Julie are talking about having, is that 10,000 gallon a day flow take into consideration those 30 additional sites?
Mr. Chair, what we were looking at right now to determine if they needed permitting now was the sites that they have. So we have, right now, there's 130 sites there
Yep.
at 100 gallons per day. That's 13,000 gallon design flow
Gotcha.
right now. So no, so then if we had 160 sites, we'd be looking at 16,000 gallons a day, if we're just looking at design flow.
So the condition or the thing that really triggers the MPCA stuff is the 10,000.
Correct,
Oh,
that's the
okay.
magical number.
Okay.
But Mr. Chair, can I ask?
Yes, Dave.
But the current design is sufficient for the 30,
Correct.
so it's not to say that the current
No.
septic isn't designed to handle it, it just,
Yeah.
Whether trips.
yes,
Trips
trips
the flow.
that, so I didn't wanna confuse
No.
that, to make sure everybody's on the same.
The design would hold it, and I got that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Wilson.
When can we vote on this? Do we have to wait now till May to figure that piece out, or what?
Mr. Chair, you know, the permitting with the MPCA is really permitting with the MPCA. We're aware that they need to do it, they're aware that they may need to do it. The MPCA is holding them off until then. So I think just in regards to the septic system, when you do vote on that, you can put a condition that they comply with this, you know, the state law regarding that. And then it's their responsibility to make sure that that gets done, and it's a condition that they need to. I don't know that they would need to be permitted that moment, but you can certainly condition the permit to see to it that they do. So that's how I would suggest handling that, because we're at the mercy of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and their permitting standards. I don't know that they would even get permitting done even if they started it right now, within the time frame that we have to make a decision on this permit.
So we could vote on this in 2 weeks at our next meeting if we wanted to, with
If
those
the
type
board-
of conditions.
If the board feels they have enough information to do that, I can certainly put that on the agenda for a vote if that's the wish of the board.
Thank you.
Other questions of the board?
Mr. Chair, I guess I would ask, is there any other information that you feel you need or that you want that we can be working on, or anything else you need to know from the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner.
And Jeff, are you working with the DNR on selling feed, putting a fuel tank in?
I am not working with the DNR on that. That is, you know, if that is a road that we choose to follow,
Okay.
that is MPCA permitting.
Oh,
and-
MPCA.
And all of that stuff takes place, you know, Minnesota Petroleum would be a manufacturer or someone that provides the service of installing that stuff. They do all the permitting.
Okay.
Other questions of the board?
So right now, if we would have to vote on this in 2 weeks, we're looking at, there's 44 sites that can have boats on at any given time.
Correct.
The pollution control will be the determining factor of how you have to do your septic system by the flow. So there's nothing else really in the way here, is there? To,
That's for you to answer.
well, I'm trying to figure out what else could possibly come up. Seems like we've had everything come up possible, so I would just like to get this one taken care of and either vote yes or no so they can get on with business one way or the other.
So, Mr. Chair, if you want me to put that on the agenda for a vote at your next board meeting, I certainly can bring that forward if that's what you'd like.
Mr. Chair, I have to ask, there has to be no public hearings or nothing anymore since.
Mr. Chair, that's completely up to you if you want to hold a second public hearing.
Mr. Chair, there is not that requirement.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. Wilson, is this something that we could discuss a little bit more at the planning session?
Absolutely.
Whether we can then bring it up if we want, and then we still have time to bring it up? That's what I would like to do, a little bit more discussion. Moving on, so. so you don't have to worry about it. But so then if next week we bring it up to planning session, we still have that 1 week, we could bring it up and say, hey, we're bringing it for that, for a vote.
We couldn't bring it to the hotel 2 weeks in.
Correct.
We can discuss it
Right.
next week, but
Yep.
I can't.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Is there, I mean, is there anything else that you guys would ask of me? I think we've addressed the environment somewhat. Kevin and I have talked a little bit about, water runoff, and that, when you look at the MPCA and what their preferences are for stormwater runoff, is that you would actually defer that water into a wetland before it gets discharged into the ground, just so it has a, process of cleaning and Soil Water and Conservation District was at our resort, did a very extensive program to slow down stormwater. There are different catch basins that slow it down before it goes into the lake. They did kind of a parking area and put a bunch of stumps for erosion control. I personally have eliminated 2 roads in the resort before I even knew it was something that you should probably do to, reduce impervious surfaces. I put in several catch basins to slow down the water to prevent Fish Trap Lake Drive from washing out, and as well as other areas that are sensitive. So if there's any questions that you have related to the environment, the safety of the road, or the docking systems, please let me know so I can address them and have answers for you at the next meeting.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Stormwater runoff, Jeff, MPCA, who covers that? MPCA or Morrison County?
Mr. Chair, during construction, as he's disturbing an acre or more, which he will be, he'll need NPDES permitting from the MPCA. So what that means, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System is what that stands for. So he will, and Mr. Hardy is aware of that. So during construction, he's gonna need to be doing that. Then there is also some stormwater controls. He needs to control the stormwater coming off of his project and ensure that that's contained. That's really more, and because of his expansion project is in the ag zoning district rather than the shoreline zoning district, I don't have any stormwater controls or provisions for ag areas. So it's kind of in concert with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and then best management practices that we certainly tapped the Soil and Water Conservation District for, and that was one of the recommended conditions by the Planning Commission, was to have soil and water out there again to reevaluate the stormwater and anything further that would need to be done to control the movement of that.
But it's MPCA that holds the whip, if you will. It says this is what you will do.
Correct.
Well, other than one of the 4 conditions was to have Helen do the.
Yes, no, besides
Oh,
Helen.
besides
it
that,
still
okay,
has-
no, I just was, okay. no.
Helen can be there as much as she wants,
Okay.
it's okay by me, I don't have an issue with that.
No.
But MPCA is the ruler, that's what I'm trying to say.
They have the stormwater rules.
Helen can come and say this is the design, but it's MPCA who we have to follow.
That, if anyone was enforcing, it would be MPC.
Thank you.
Other questions, gentlemen? Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Good discussion.
Thank you.
And all of those in the public who came for this, please, thanks for coming. Very good.
Never hurts to ask questions.
Yeah.
I have one more thing for you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes.
No, at the last planning session, we discussed this contract with Fishing the Wild Side, and that is to provide the aquatic invasive species, educational materials in the form of some media clips and all of that. I do, in your packet, I gave you a copy of the contract, so I'm asking for, I'm asking for.
Yeah, you guys can go. Yeah.
I'm asking
I don't have
for,
the packet.
Thank you.
Fishing the wild side doesn't fly, huh?
I'm asking for authorization to sign that contract, to get that going.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Now I'm
Thanks,
done.
Amy. Appreciate it. Let's, social services, yeah, you gonna be quick, Brad? How quick's it gonna be? Oh,
Do we have guests?
oh, we do, very
Yes,
good,
they've
very
been
good, I'm
waiting
sorry.
patiently.
Come on
Come on
up.
in. Paul and Arthur.
I apologize.
Steve, what time is it?
So I'm actually gonna
Understood,
stand
understood,
behind
that's
them.
That's fine.
7:30 was tonight.
We are actually here to do a local advisory council report.
Very good.
At May's Mental Health Month, we wanted to share some information on what our local advisory council is doing.
All right.
In terms of some activities and goals that they have, so I think Paul and Karen and Pam worked on a little presentation, so they're gonna share it, and it's also in your packet, so.
Let me do a brief introduction and Karen. LAC is the local advisory committee that's statutorily set up to ensure that the lead mental health authority, of which Morrison County Social Services is for our county, has consumer input into the decisions that are being made for the procurement of services and ensuring that there is a continuum of care available for persons suffering with mental illness. The LAC has been fairly active in our community, working at the drop-in center. Kieran and Pam have been very active as a part of that consumer-driven group. And so with that, I will let them report on their activities of the last year and what they're intending to do for the next year.
Very good.
Ready?
Welcome, lady.
All right, so last year, our goal for education was, we did bring the Wellness Recovery Action Plan to the community. Oak Ridge Woodview is still currently offering a peer support group at the drop-in center. We did talk extensively about doing a resource book for Morrison County. However, due to already having resource guides out there, we decided it would not be effective at this time. We provided the community with Holding the Hope Health and Wellness Fair, which brought information to the community as to what is available for services. Our proposed goal for this next year on education, the local advisory council on mental health will be organizing on October 7th, 2015, another Holding the Hope Health and Wellness Fair, Mental Health Awareness Week community event to raise awareness and bring professional educators to the community at large. We plan to increase the number of vendors at the event this year. The Morrison County LAC will support Mental Health Association of Minnesota in bringing Wellness Recovery Action Planning classes and groups to the community. Support the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Minnesota and North Central Region affiliate to provide educational seminars or events in Morrison County. To also support Oak Ridge Review Adult Rehabilitation Mental Health Services to provide the monthly support group to the community at the drop-in center. We'll be looking into bringing in mental health first aid to the community, which will educate on the warning signs of suicide to help save lives. Last year for housing, LSS currently attends our regular monthly LAC meetings and reports on their current housing programs. They have housing resource guides from LSS hanging at the Morrison County Drop-In Center. Our proposed goal for housing this next year, excuse me, is to invite the representatives from local area housing programs to attend and or send reports to the local advisory council for discussion. That would be the LSS and HRA. We're hoping to do some work with the HRA this next year. I think that pretty much covers that one for the proposed goal for housing. The last year for crisis intervention services, we've handed out magnets from the crisis line and referral service throughout the community. We've had discussion on the warm line number, and we've also handed out the business cards and magnets for that line as well. We continue to follow the current changes regarding the crisis beds for Morrison County. So our proposed goal for the crisis intervention services for this year is to work with the crisis line and referral service to help connect consumers and family members in crisis with the appropriate resources in Morrison County, to follow the changes that are being made to our crisis bed services, to collaborate and offer input based off the needs for Morrison County, to do help with the PATH project for assistance to transition from homelessness with assist in finding housing, that'd be the LSS. Last year for family and peer support, the LEC currently has representatives of family members on our council. The drop-in center currently advises members to bring their family members and or friends without mental health issues to better help support them and community at large. The drop-in center and LEC supports armed outreach workers and peers by adding private meeting rooms to meet with their clients. At the drop-in, we did a huge remodeling, I'd say, this last year to better fit things like that. So our proposed goal for 2015 would be that to serve the county as an advocacy group, for people with psychiatric diagnosis. Family and peer support is available via representation by consumers and family members who volunteer in the council. We're working with the drop-in center to help the community and collaborate on people and families with who are experiencing mental health issues. And then last year, our collaboration with the local advisory council, we continue to send 2 members of the board to the regional LAC meetings quarterly, and we report back that to the local advisory here in Morrison County. LAC will be sending a representative to the Mental Health Initiative meeting quarterly to offer a voice for Morrison County and report back to the drop-in center and LAC. So our proposed goal for the collaboration with other LACs, the LAC will collaborate with the Regional Mental Health Advisory Council on a quarterly basis. At least 2 members will still attend quarterly. And like I said, attending the Mental Health Initiative meeting, I guess that's where a lot of the big decisions are made. And so I think it'd be very wise to be able to bring that information back and actually be part of the count, have everybody be involved. So that's what we got. Any questions?
I don't. Gentlemen?
Again, I'd just like to say this is an important function, and it certainly helps in terms of the services we provide, getting input from a variety of partners. So we really appreciate the work they do, as well as the support Carla and Paul provide the local advisory council. So thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Brad,
Commissioner Zelinski.
I've said this on more than one occasion, the more the merrier. The more that we can discuss stuff with other people, more players that we can bring to the table, good and bad, to get different input, I think it's such a positive thing, and it truly is.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for all you do.
So thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
for your time.
Thank you.
For your
Yeah.
patience.
Have a good
Really
day.
good to hear.
Have a good day.
Thanks for your patience.
Brad?
I just have one other thing, Commissioners, nothing to be, not an action item at all, but just to thank Jim Beluski and his staff from the fiscal division, who were awarded with 100% accuracy on their reports to the Department of Human Services. They have a number of reports. It is a team effort between Jim and his staff, as well as the social workers and supervisors. But really, Jim and Deb and Linda get credit for, really pulling the group together, so.
Good job.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
perfect performance. What more, how better can
Yeah.
you do?
So,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner.
one question, Brad, do they look at that yearly?
yes,
That's what, we saw this before.
yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, thank
So
you.
every year you're chair, you'll get this letter,
Thank them.
hopefully.
Thank them,
Gentlemen,
Brad.
I'm gonna propose a recess for 5 minutes. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
All right. That's coming off the sinking ship here, or what's
I know they won't.
Yeah.
Don't hold back.
You know what? Yeah, sure. Are you two?
So, congratulations on your birthday. Thank you. Al said you want to get under 2 hours.
Yeah.
Did you?
I did. A little hard at the end.
Oh, I know. Where did they run it from?
Oh, okay. Go across the river and then you come back across the river.
So now, the way that I cut it.
Because what did you rent it in last year, 203 or something?
It's, Alice and I had kids together.
well, no, it'll be the same
The other
set.
2 years, and it was always
It's the same
about
fix.
10 seconds.
Oh, yes, you're saying you really wanted to kind of be with you and push you.
That same person.
Did she
They,
make it
they
too?
bring it in on DVD and
She was a little worried about that, it's been a while.
so it's a different format. It's a
I see it
different-
again on the computer.
Yep.
Because before.
So this puts it in and then,
She on this
oh,
one?
no, it's fine, like I figured it out.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
cause I had put
So
it
you guys each split it in half.
MPEG,
You split in
but the MPEG that, I put it into just.
Okay, that sounds like you didn't want to run with her anymore.
Tight little buttons. And so I ran it through a fix and
Well, good. I'm glad you made it. Glad
Thank
you
you.
Glad you beat your time. I know she's worried about
it
that.
sounds goofy. And then it added something to the file that I already made an MPEG to, and then it played. So that's just, so I
So
just
it
need
doesn't
to,
matter if I give it to you in this form or on the same way that I made it before.
Yep.
You're still gonna have to do something to change it.
yeah, correct.
I'll try to, I think what I'll do is I'll save this one chip for just work sessions. Because the
Okay.
only thing that's on here is last night's work session.
Okay.
The only problem is that it's not clipped. Because I start the camera rolling, so I don't miss anything in case I
Okay.
go to the bathroom or someone talks. So there's a portion of it before the work session starts that needs to be chopped off. So,
Well, either way, I have to put it through it, so I can chop it.
There were some flakes, I think,
can you cut off?
Yeah, it's
that
coming
part
out pretty
of
good
the
for a
front
few
where,
minutes.
Like, you know, the start of the work session is when they have the public comment.
April, it's not supposed
Doesn't
to
matter if
snow.
it's me or somebody
It
else.
is April, there's still a good chance
So
of
they're
it.
doing that.
Last year, we were getting like
We're
dumpings
starting.
in April.
Yeah, when my son was young, he was playing soccer in the snow in May,
Oh,
so.
no, work session doesn't have a post, that's the council.
Okay.
So it's, when Jeremy is saying, you know.
It's Minnesota, you take what you get.
Yep.
3 minutes of.
With a previous job, I had traveled to Kansas quite a bit, and it was so funny to hear them say, it's Kansas, the weather's gonna take you down, you wanna die, and I'm like, that's what we say. Apparently, they're not the only ones. Yeah.
No,
Kansas,
that's,
they get
that's,
wind and
that's
rain
fine.
and-
Yeah.
Oh, because I looked for the time.
It gets snow, but
They
they don't get the
snow.
below zero stuff.
Yeah, they get snow, they get a decent amount, but it melts then.
So
You know,
this
it's
way
gonna
is
stick around.
okay,
Yep, and I've been working out,
See you
mostly
later.
Ohio the last couple of years, and they'll get 3 feet of snow.
Yeah,
It's-
on the
it's-
lake, lake effect
Like I
dumps,
said,
and then
the more I
it's
push
done.
to all my ducks in a row.
I know.
But
Do you have the,
processes, which
am I
I'm
getting
which
close?
I've already started on.
I just, I don't, instead, I just get an email that says, we're on at 10:10.
Yeah.
So even when they're, okay, next, and I'm like, is it me? I have no idea. I look up there, I'm like, no, that's not me.
I can tell my staff when we're getting, you know, a couple of people before me, I can email my staff to come in.
See, that's, yeah, we need somebody to give us that. Since we're only at flight staff.
Heads up, public health coming up next.
We're next, we're next.
It won't take long. There's plenty there.
Extension, 2 people ahead.
And I just think that they are
A bit of that, usually. Yeah, usually have 5 minutes. Today I actually have 10 items. I don't know how to make it bigger.
I just make notes. Hey, I should work on it.
Your screen is like the size of your hand.
So I just tell anyone, you know, just start, you know, hey, I should call that person.
Upgrade.
tracks on.
And then this afternoon, last month,
So, but I say what
So myself and the educator, I think that's at 2:30.
Here's the high school.
we haven't had plans.
That one at a time, we have a.
Yep, it's already.
We do, and I feel like I'm missing that one. They're always on Monday night. So that's part of me. So you're, let me think here, is it no.
Usually
Seems to me there should be one come up, I haven't seen it on my calendar yet, I don't know if I have it written down or not.
Flashing lights.
No,
Yep, that's what I play it like this.
you're right, it's coming, I don't see it.
I'll tell you right now, I'm
Oh,
I thought they were looking over at what they had on 27, crosswalk.
I think that's pretty much answered anyway, there, nobody's gonna be here.
Yeah.
But I think
Yep.
Commissioner Winchester, are we ready to get going there, sir?
Yeah.
Bet.
All right, I know Steve wants to get over to making pork chops, so. All right, okay, we'll get you out of here quick, come on up.
Yeah.
All right, Steve.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Read it.
Okay, I have a number of requests for your authorization. The first being our major contract for work this summer. The abstract of bid was included in your packet. There's a number of projects we have tied together, all of those which had culvert replacement, culvert treatment work, along with bituminous mixtures tied to it. There's quite a substantial separation between the two contractors that bid. We received two bid proposals on this project. I would say part of that was because we are a little bit later, and when we normally open bids because of a delay with our core permitting on the 33 project with all the pipe work that we were doing and the shoulder widening.
Yep.
So I know that one of the larger contracts, as a result of that, had tied up for the early part of their season, which then resulted in that they did not submit a proposal in this situation. But I think if you look at the engineer's estimate, Tri-City Paving's bid prices, we're finding them to be very competitive. Actually, we had made reductions in bituminous costs because of just the fact that we have lower priced oils. But even with the reductions we made, we saw bigger reductions in the bids that came in under this project.
Okay.
And so our recommendation is that that the bid of Tri-City Paving in the amount of $3,609,595.16 be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder of Tri-City Paving.
I would so move on that, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Is this a roll call? It is. We have a motion and a second. All those, Commissioner Jolinski. What? Discussion, I'm sorry. Further discussion, gentlemen? All right. Commissioner Jolinski.
Oh, but he's right.
He's right, no, that's fine.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchester. Aye. All right, thank you, sir.
Also, what was included in these projects was a bridge replacement on the Little Rock Creek over County Road 236. With that, we have secured bonding funds in the amount of $105,777, which requires our typical bonding agreement. And so I request that the board would authorize the chairman and the administrator to sign the bonding agreement so we can secure those funds for that bridge replacement.
Have a motion? Second?
Second.
All right, this is a roll call also?
Aye.
It is. All right. Commissioner Jolinski. Oh,
Aye.
excuse me, further discussion, gentlemen.
That was good.
All in favor? All those in favor? Oh, it is a roll call. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
You guys got me all confused. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Winter. Aye. All right, next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also included in the board's packet was a contract utilizing an independent contractor for cable locating and cable guarding. We have electrical cable and also connections for our flashing lights and our street lights. And we contract with City Lights, who contracts with a variety of utilities, so that when Gopher One Call is notified that there may be some excavating in an area where we have underground cable, they are the contractor that we utilize to come out and mark our cable. It's probably about $1,000 contract annually. It just depends on how many calls are made to go for one call, but it's a small contract, but it's much more efficient to use them than have utilize their own forces to do that. So we're requesting that the board authorize that contract.
All right, you have a motion.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, then finally, the board had authorized us to seek proposals for the application of calcium chloride. We did receive one bid, Tri-City Paving, which is pretty typical for this type of work. The value of the contract is $97,908. It's a half a cent less than last year. And so our recommendation is that we would award our calcium chloride application to Tri-City Paving for 2015.
Half a cent less for the whole contract?
Per gallon.
Per gallon. Okay. All right.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Have a second?
Second.
All right. Is this a roll call? Yes, it is. Awarding of contract. Commissioner Jones. Oh, further discussion. All right. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Winchell. Aye.
And we typically have done this application sometime in the middle of June, early June. We have moved it up to the end of May. We had such little snow cover, we're just kind of taking a chance that that's going to be the right conditions, and we want to get it down.
Get torrential rains.
Yeah, I mean, you take that chance, but
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Winchell.
Are we starting this crack seal, or is that a ways off yet?
no, we have been out. We've been out for probably a month.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
Hopefully we'll see you all.
Thanks,
Sounds good.
Thanks
Sounds
very
good.
much.
Extension report. I apologize for moving Steve ahead, but he has something going on at the. Thank you.
Good morning.
Did you almost fall asleep?
I was watching the snow, how could I fall asleep?
See, I crossed it off early. All right.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to have a very short report. As you know, I'm only 5 hours a week here, and in March, we had local extension educators spring staff development for 3 days. So I found myself in Wilmer as well as Morris for 3 days learning about all sorts of different things on how to handle and deal with topics that may be of sensitive discussion, like GMOs or chemical applications and things of that nature, as well as we had a fun day out at the West Central Research and Outreach Center. So that was the one that's in Morris, and we learned what they were up to regarding renewable energy, the dairy there, as well as the horticulture, which of course is what interested me the most. During March, I finally was able to find a good contact, or I thought a good contact with one of the farmers markets here in town, and had a nice discussion, sent him a nice email. Hadn't heard anything back here in the last month or few weeks or so I contacted him, and now he's no longer associated with that farmers market, and so he gave me a new contact name to get in touch with. So I am at a bit of a challenge here. I feel like I'm just spinning and spinning and spinning and digging ruts, but not getting very far with regards to some of these local foods organizations that are in place, including the Food Hub Group, which is with Arlene. And I know Commissioner Jelinski was at that meeting where they had the whole kind of open house, and then maybe there was a few others in that room because it was jam-packed, and I'm not sure how many were there. But Arlene was a tough one to track down, still is a tough one to track down. And that day was not the opportunity to have a little meeting, but I broke the crowd and shook her hand, hoping that that would make the difference, and it has not.
Have you touched base with Carol Anderson regarding?
I have met with Carol Anderson. Carol Anderson and myself and Arlene were supposed to have a meeting in February, and Arlene didn't show up to the meeting.
So, I've kind of now gotten to the point in discussing with my boss as well of maybe I need to branch out to other.
Do this yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I have a meeting scheduled with the Live Better, Live Longer group, in conjunction with the SNAP Ed educator that is currently covering Morrison County, even though she soon will just be back in DeTaw County, as we are in the process of hiring the one here from Morrison County. And that will be in 2 weeks, just over. So I'm hoping that is another avenue that I can seek out. In the meantime, though, I'm keeping myself busy. I'm writing news releases every single week. Unfortunately, I haven't seen those consistently being in our local paper, so hint, hint.
I'm a freelancer, absolutely no power there.
No power with it. But my job was to have one per month to be focused with the local foods group. And so last week my release was on that. It was on crop families and making sure that you knew the connection so that you weren't introducing plants that are still susceptible to disease that the tomatoes might have been carrying, and now you put in peppers and you would have the same issue. But they didn't write it this week, but they wrote on ticks, so I'm happy with that because that's an issue for all of us to be concerned about. They are out and about. So I'm open ears to anybody that has contact info that I maybe have not sought out yet. And otherwise, I just want to express, read our reports, all of us, because I certainly don't know what Becky's up to and all that Emily and Dan are up to as well. And extension, just hearing the other things that I've heard this morning sitting here. We have now acquired an extension educator whose focus is on aquatic invasive species. And they are housed out of Andover, but it's a statewide position. So I always think and hear of these other opportunities that I think extension could play a role in and help out here in Morrison County. So just for you guys to be aware of that. If you do see needs, give a shout out to us and we can get you in touch with the right people.
Devin, and we have a fellow who comes to the meetings. I'm trying to think of his name. Is it chemist? No, the chemist that talked to you. Is it Jerry? Yeah.
Jerry Chandler?
Is it
Yes.
Jerry? And he had talked to me and approached me on his concern. And then he said he was a chemist. He worked. He has a lot of knowledge about food. Stuff. But and Jerry had talked about seeing this here months ago when we started looking at the different entities involved in this whole process and how bringing them together would be really difficult. And he told us about it. Remember I suggested he talk to you? He was going to talk to you about that. But anyways, the fellow that's always here.
Yeah, I know Jerry.
Yeah. So he's got some really interesting ideas about how to coordinate or how to bring entities together, because he's concerned that all this stuff about the food hub and about the lady you're talking about over by, where is it over there?
Up on the growing border.
Yeah. We have all these different entities and all of them heading off in different directions. He was very concerned about that because he's seen that happen before. So he might be a guy to talk to with some ideas. So, Deb, could you get me that information?
I don't know that I have Jerry's contact, but I can look.
Okay. Very good. So,
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank, Beth, are you joining us this afternoon, or who is it?
Yes, myself and Elizabeth and Quilo, and she is the SNAP Ed educator who's been covering. So we're going to be doing the
Your government show this afternoon, so we'll have extension featured for the coming month with our cable access show.
Yeah.
I appreciate your help.
very good.
So
Thank you.
that is about it. Any questions for me or
Questions, gentlemen?
extension? You guys have my contact all the time, so when you're struggling with apple scab or something, give me a call. No. All right.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Public health report. Sorry I got to you late.
Yeah, no,
I crossed you off early.
This is Michelle Taudis, one of our health educators.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
So just as you guys kind of get the information, this grant that's being passed around, I'll kind of give you a little bit of background. So we're seeking approval to submit a proposal for this Blue Cross Blue Shield Center for Prevention grant. It's for eliminating tobacco inequities. So all municipalities within Morrison County were identified through analysis by Blue Cross Blue Shield as eligible service areas for this grant. So the timeline for this is we put in this request for a proposal, then they invite us, and they look through all of them, they invite us to actually submit an application. So I'm asking you today just to be able to submit the first part of it, and then you guys can decide if we do get, are one of the ones that get chosen, you can decide then if you actually want to go after this. So basically the overall smoking rates in Minnesota have decreased dramatically, but there are populations that still have high levels of tobacco use and secondhand smoke exposure, and that are targeted through marketing and tobacco industry. So the goal of this funding is to really reduce tobacco use in these populations, which we are one of these populations, by supporting community-driven efforts that we already are actually working on through our community health needs assessment. So,
And this also would include education about electronic cigarettes also alongside of tobacco.
Mr. Chair, I believe what I heard was Katie's looking for the okay to apply for a grant, simply make application
so
For the
there-
first process.
The first part,
Yes.
so phase
Yep.
one,
at this point in time.
at this point in time.
Yep.
And
And
I'll
then-
make that motion.
And Mr. Chair, if I, well, then we get a second, I'll second it, then I'll have discussion.
All right.
Is this the-
You made a motion?
Yeah.
And a second?
Jeff
Okay,
made it.
further discussion.
Is this like, if I'm reading this correctly, it's anywhere, this grant is from 50 to 125,000, am I reading that right?
So if you look on the focus areas,
Yep.
we can get up to 125,000 per year for up to 3 years.
And it's just E and F is the ones that we can actually,
So I only put on there for you guys E and F because if you look at the eligible applicants, government is only able to do those 2 focus areas.
Okay.
And we can choose to work on one or more focus area in the same community, in the same population, but if we decide to focus on one area and then do it across communities, we have to submit separate applications. So our thought is that we would submit a plan for Little Falls because it's the biggest community, and then with our SHIP 4
ship
plan,
efforts, we could go.
Okay.
we could do the other
Makes sense.
communities.
Sure.
So this kind of goes along with our community health needs assessment, and you guys all kind of know what that is, I'm guessing. So a couple of the strategies actually in our community health needs assessment are to collaborate with Morrison, or with us, with public health in implementing strategies to reduce tobacco use. So one of the strategies is to do direct patient stuff for smoking cessation, which the hospital is taking care of, St. Gabe's. Another one is to support and collaborate to create smoke-free multi-unit housing, which SHIP is taking care of. And then there's this other strategy to support and collaborate in further restricting tobacco point of sale communities and policies, and that's what this would be addressing. So we kind of already have partners at the table. You know, we write this community health needs assessment with social services and with St. Gabe's. So that's going to be a really strong factor for us in this grant if you so choose to decide to go after it. One other
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Dennis. Go ahead.
One
Finish
other
up,
thing
Kate.
I just want to mention is the county health rankings, which you guys probably saw during Public Health Week. The adult smoking rate for Morrison County for this year is 21%, and the Minnesota rate is 16%. So I'm guessing that's part of where they're getting their tobacco.
All right, yeah.
The local ordinance could do that in terms of restrict point of sale. Is that kind of what they're getting at when they say that? In terms of impacting the number of retail outlets, it would take local law, I would assume, to do that. Is that what's allowed? Yeah.
This grant is really going after policy, system, and environmental changes. It's not going after individual people, but the policy, you know,
At a policy level, which
Yeah.
is what I'm anticipating, then it
Correct.
would be.
And we could, if they do choose us to actually apply, we can look at what kind of things.
What kind of strategies we want to
Yeah,
work on.
what would we want to work on?
But under this general goal
Yeah.
of reducing the number of outlets, which would be
Retail.
those who sell it.
And,
And how they present it. you know.
And how they, yeah, so
Education.
signage, that kind of stuff, and it would touch tobacco products. So not only, you know, smokeless tobacco, e-cigs.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Other questions, gentlemen?
So this actually was a much thicker packet, but I just gave you guys
We like that.
the abbreviated version of that.
Mr. Chair, again, what we're dealing on here is a motion to simply apply to see if we can get it. Yeah, not saying we're gonna get it, or if we do get it, well, we're gonna go from there. It's just simply making that.
All right, that all being said, do I have a motion? Have a motion?
There was a motion.
Oh, a second, okay, Jeff, okay, apologize. Okay, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
The second thing is from environmental health, and it is to approve the 2015 seasonal establishment licenses in front of you, Dairy Tree, Pine Grove Zoo, Rich Rib Steakhouse, and Shamna Acres, Silo Ice Cream, and then for District 4 Food Driving.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Alright, and the last thing I have for you is just a discussion. Sorry.
That's okay, we're just gonna go.
So we had a WIC, so the Women, Infant, and Children program that we had discussed previously, our management evaluation, which this happens every 2 years. It's to see if we're meeting federal and state regulations and to better understand how state WIC can support our program in working to improve the health of our community through the WIC program. They also give us technical assistance and recommendations for meeting the federal requirements and for enhancing our participant-centered services. So if we have any unmet regulations or standards, we're required to have a plan of correction for that. So basically, what did we do wrong and how we're going to fix it. So we had an exit meeting, so it was our nutritionist from our front staff, me, and then the state WIC nutrition consultant and the state WIC program consultant. And they had the following things to say. So they said our nutritionist has a great deal of experience with the program and still remains enthusiastic about the program and the participants. They were really happy about that. And the nutritionists do a good job with the nutrition education using the participant-centered service to engage clients. And they really commended our WIC space for being client-friendly. They really, they wish they could reproduce our WIC program. That was actually their words, that they wish they could reproduce it. So that was wonderful. They did have a few recommendations for us. Just a couple of the documenting with our nutritionists, and we'll work on that. And these are just recommendations. They weren't unmet standards. We actually had no unmet standards, which was good. And to assure that nutrition education isn't done in the lobby and it's done in private. And we're working on something around our release of information for our clients, because currently they can check off if they want to give their updated information to our other programs like CTC and our maternal child health nurses. There's something around the privacy on that and the way it's worded that we need to change. So we're going to be doing that. And we're going to submit a request for an increase in administration funds to purchase new equipment, which they recommended that we do because they have extra funds. So we'll be getting some new scales not out of our budget, which is great.
Excellent.
So the evaluation staff from state really commended our WIC program, and they projected that we should plan for an increased caseload in the future due to the ages of our clients and the birth rate information for Morrison County. So we're going to keep monitoring this data and our caseload numbers, and we'll staff appropriately to continue to provide this excellent WIC program that we provide. So what you have in front of you is just about the Minnesota WIC facts, in case you want to look at that. But the table shows how many clients we served last year. So I have it highlighted in pink on just the table that we served 1,318 clients last year. And some of those clients come, a few times over the year. So the average amount of clients that we've served so far in 2015 is 804 per month, but like I said, they project that to increase.
Is this just for Morrison County, or do we?
This is just Morrison, but we do function, our WIC program does function as a community health board. This is just for our program. And our WIC expenditure plan caseload is per full-time nutritionist is 500 to 650 clients per month. So right now we feel like we're adequately staffed and everything is going good. And our fiscal year starts over again on October 2015, so we can kind of look at it then. And we receive funds for the WIC program based on our caseload, and this money comes to the community health board, like you were saying, Randy, and it's split from there, depending on caseload. So I just wanted to let you guys know that we were extremely happy that we have no unmet standards, which doesn't happen very often from what I hear of, so.
Right, very good.
Excellent.
That's it for you.
That is it.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you, very, very kind.
Next, we have the auditor's report. Now that we're back on track. Thanks for your patience. Good morning. Morning.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah, barely, sure.
We're a little behind, guys.
I have a few items for you this morning.
Yes, that's fine.
We're gonna start with the assemblage for a large number of people for the Piers Freedom Fest.
All right.
And I don't believe we have anybody here today.
We have a request for the large assembly.
I'll second that.
And we do have the variance for the liability insurance one time. They know they have to come back next year with a full amount.
Sounds good. Further discussion, gentlemen.
Next year it's gonna be after, Mr. Chair, it'll be $1.5 million.
Correct.
Liability insurance, correct. I have some discussion. If you guys don't, I stood out there and watched how that Freedom Fest was run last year for 5 hours and watched it. The best thing I've ever seen as far as run and handled and the security there and stuff. So it was taken care of very well. So I can't speak highly enough about what went on out there. So yeah, good event. So good. Anything else, gentlemen? All right. Having a motion, or we need a motion? We do.
I second.
Second, okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
There he goes. There he goes.
We have an update from our motor vehicle department. I have Denise Vogel here.
Good morning.
Hi, Denise.
Hi. You never hear from her or what goes on down there, so I thought I'd have her share a few of her statistics. She tracks everything that goes on down there. And I thought I'd have her
handouts. Are they the same that's in the board packet?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it should be the same three that are in the board.
Okay.
The first one is our applications count, and I keep track of the motor vehicle driver's license and DNR application count. And I just went back 5 years. I can go back further if you'd like to see them. I'm back to like 2004 with
More
the
colors
counts.
then, right?
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Go on.
rainbow colors. I just wanted to point out one thing with the motor vehicle applications. As you notice, that has gone up every year, and on an average of about 500 applications a year. We are always hearing from our local communities, and they're coming in and telling us how knowledgeable we are and how helpful we are and friendly, you know, that kind of thing. And I think that goes to show that the girls are really doing an excellent job in that area. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Mr. Chair, if I may say something on that, I really had a lot of dealings with DMVs throughout my times. And I even drove to Little Falls, because again, and I've heard so many people how well they take care of people, their knowledge at Little Falls, and it's a department that we've got to be really,
Other comments, gentlemen?
I would say the same thing. I mean, you know, when people go down in there and stuff, they're very accommodating and very friendly.
Always a smile on their face.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And I need to make a comment. That is a change from years ago. I mean, very much so. Very much so. It really is a very positive change. So, yeah, friendly,
Thanks for all the cooperative.
cooperative.
That's
Yes.
awesome. We also, just to add a little tidbit, we have deputy reviews every year. I have not gotten our 2014 one, but when I get it, I can forward that to you. Our 2013 one had showed 1% less, or how do I want to say that? Had less than 1% error ratio. Performance that they gave us was excellent in our department, so that was really nice too. And as far as the revenues, as you can see, we had a couple increases, one with driver's license revenue and one with motor vehicle revenue in the last 4 years. And of course, DNR revenue, we tried this year to get that to go through legislation. And it's a no-go this year, but we're gonna try again next year. So I appreciate your support for 2016 on the DNR filing fee increase. It's much needed. It has not been done in 10 years. So,
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, I make a quick
yes,
comment
yeah.
too, and I think it, you know, as a testament, we see the numbers that we get and we bring in revenue locally to support that, and I think it not only serves customers in bringing that in to support those people to be able to come here. I mean, you can mail that in, you don't have to do business locally, remember that, but then the revenue doesn't come in. So I think it's a good, you know, it's a good point to remember that not only are we doing that business and people enjoy coming here and they're driving up here from other places to do business here, brings revenue in, and it has brought in revenue above and beyond what the cost to provide that. And so not only is it a good thing to provide, because we don't have to, it's another one of these things we don't have to do as local county government, but it sure is nice because it serves all of us who are taxpayers and citizens who need to have that service or want to have that service locally, but then it also supports the organization. So,
yes, and keeping us here. So make sure you tell all your friends and neighbors. In person is best. And to add a little bit to that, I had added the summary report from the state that we get back, and that has shown that we are taking in about 62% of what is Morrison County's vehicles and trailers and everything that goes on with motor vehicle. But yeah, so 62% off of that is pretty good for Morrison County. So that goes to show that the legal isn't taken away from us.
Yeah.
So much, so that's good,
And we don't
want to
get
keep
that
it that
smile
way.
from Denise if we send that.
Got that right. That is pretty much it for those totals. Any questions?
Hello, gentlemen.
Comment, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Denise, you can come here anytime you want to, just so you know.
Oh,
Don't come there.
thank you.
Anytime you want.
I know, I'm getting more comfortable.
All right.
All right.
The next thing we want to do is bring the refund and refund checking policy that we had brought for the planning commission, or planning meeting last week, and get your approval, and we changed the wording just slightly to bring everything that we discussed last week. And so that is in front of you.
And Mr. Chair, again,
Yes,
you brought this
Commissioner
up, it's right on there, again, that 1 year, at least we got something where we don't have to keep the checks out there for 20 years.
Exactly.
Right, and we did add the, once our checks are depleted, that we would add the 90-day policy and go with it that way.
Right, a motion on that, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
No second. Further discussion, gentlemen. Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thanks.
And the last thing we have from Denise is we have the DNR contract we need signed for her departments. I'll let you explain the contract.
Yeah, our DNR contract is every 4 years, and we're up for renewal in June, which then will expire in June of 2019. Pretty formality that we have this in the past. They are bringing in new equipment this year, new printers, new programming, so we have some new stuff to learn, all coming in June starting, that we will get some of that training and whatnot done. But other than that, it's pretty basic. It's selling and giving information out, of course, on the DNR licensing.
So fishing, hunting.
Nope, that
We
would
don't
be
do
boat,
fishing, hunting.
yep,
Boat,
watercraft,
four
ATV,
limits,
yep,
yeah.
everything
Sure,
else
I'll
on
move
bill.
on this one.
I'll second
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion, gentlemen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Have a good day.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, do you have other stuff for us?
Yeah, we have a
Thank you,
couple more
Denise.
things.
Bye-bye.